Yo, what's going on guys? My name's Chevalric and today I'm bringing you the ultimate Dominion Tower guide for your Elite Desert achievement. We'll not be going over the hard one because the only difference really is 50 KC, and in that 50 KC you'll be completing everything else for the Elite one. So just go to 500, do some extra tasks after it, which will take another like 50 KC or something, and then you're done. So trust me, if you're looking at this guide with the thought, oh, I only want to do the hard ones, stay there till you've done the elite ones, because trust me, you don't want to go back here because it is not that great. And especially the information on the wiki and in game it's even worse, doesn't tell you anything what to do. So that's what I'm here to tell you guys. If you're going to enjoy this video, definitely leave a like. Let me know in the comment section down below what other guides you want to see. And without further ado, let's get into this video. So first things first, what is the Dominion Tower? Well, very easily put, is you're refighting all the quest bosses. That's also the reason why if you hover over the requirement in your achievement tab, you will see an entire list of quests that you have to complete for the elite task set. However, it's just very simple. It's nothing really special. They don't have anything else. They're just the bosses from the quest. And if they have like some special way to defeat them, where there's like a few of them, the items needed to defeat them will be in the arena. So you don't need to bring some very odd items and collect them to be able to take them on. And quite frankly, I'm not going to be going over every single boss in the Dominion Tower because, as I said, the majority of them is just taking them on, and some of them have a few special mechanics or requirements to take them on. So if you forget how to do it, just wiki them, because I don't want to make this video like 30 minutes long. Let's get into the requirements, however, because there are some things that you need. We'll be going over a full detailed gear setup later on in this video, so just stay tuned for that. Or if you're just there for in this video, just skip it with the chapters down below. However, some decent magic tank armor is, I would say, a hard requirement, because if you have magic tank armor in combination with Animate Death and Blood Barrage, you'll be zooming through it. Look, you don't need Crypt Bloom like I'll be showing you in the example. Ganondormic will be doing just fine in combination with Blood Barrage, because there is a mode where you cannot use food anymore at some point, so the Blood Barrage will just heal you from, well, all the damage you're taking. So 100% recommend magic tank armor with your best magic weapon, and that's it. Animate that, Blood Barrage, you're good. But as I said, we'll go over in more detail. And also a dual wield range switch or two-handed melee. I would recommend dual wield range switch like Ascensions or something. With a Criminal Bolt, very easy to bring, does a lot of damage. And the one or two bosses where you'll be needing it, where you do not use your magic, you don't need like a full-on range switch. But if you want, you can bring it. It's really not necessarily, you just need the weapons. Also, overloads are really, really, really handy in this game mode. But at the same time, there's also a restriction at some point, which, as I said, we'll go over, don't worry about it, where you don't, or you're not allowed to use your overload. So I will just bring them, but it's not really a requirement. And patience. Patience is huge for this, because it can get very, very annoying. Trust me. It can be a terrible thing sometimes, but when it comes to the quest, you'll be needing the following. I know it shows you in the quest guide, but I hate looking at it because it's so small. But you need the Chosen Commander, the Void Stares Back, Blood Runs Deep, the Curse of Araf, Fight Arena, Lair Tarn Reservoir, the mini quest there in the Lair of Tarn, Nomad Requiem, Recipe for Disaster, like the full quest done, Spirits of Elite, Vampire Slayer, Love Story, While Gothic Sleeps, and My Armed Big Adventure. I believe if you just have these quests done, it will be the most efficient thing to do, but obviously that's impossible. And I would just recommend you just having all these quests done, because then, as I said, you will, as I said in the beginning of the video, you will go through everything whilst just going for the other challenges, and by 500 KC or just a little more than 500 KC, you'll be done with this entire thing and you will not ever have to come back. Before we begin though, on the initial match menu, whether that's Rumble mode or Climber mode or Endurance mode or whatever mode you're picking, make sure to turn off the taunts. I will show it on screen so you can see it, but this will skip so much time and this will save you so much time, because pretty much what they are is every single time you go into the arena and go out of the arena, your character does a taunt. See it as like an emote. And that obviously takes time. And I think these taunts are like 10 seconds each or 15 seconds each. That's like half a minute every single time. And if you need to do 500 bosses, that's a lot of time. So turn them off. Don't even think about them. And let's get into the different modes. The Dominion Tower has 3 different game modes that are relevant to you, besides Spectator mode, which you will need to do with a friend for one of the achievements. But besides that, there's no relevancy to it. They are Climber mode, Endurance mode, and the Special mode. Climber mode is quite simple. It is you just taking on different types of bosses that are randomized out of a pool of the bosses that you have unlocked, but you're taking them on with handicaps. These handicaps can vary from having no access to your potions, no access to your food, no access to your prayers, no access to your chest plate, or debuff the rage, debuff the magic. There's an entire list of them. If you're really curious, they'll be on the wiki, and obviously I'll be linking the wiki guide in the description, but they're not really that relevant. The bosses are not that strong, especially if you have good tank armor and you're using blood barrage and use the strategy talked about in this video. You should be more than fine. You don't have to worry about it. And this will also be your best way to get the pages. We're going over the Dominion Tower page in a little bit, but yes, climber mode is your best way to get the pages. Next up is endurance mode. Endurance mode is pretty much the same thing as climber mode, but without the handicaps, which you will not want to be touching unless you only need KC. That is a very important thing. Endurance mode, as I said, is just like climber mode. You just take on bosses randomly and you just keep on going. There's like one challenge you need to do in endurance mode, and then you pretty much don't have to touch it again unless you need to bosses KC. But we'll be going over the requirements for that later on as well, because I don't want to clutter your brain too much with too much information. And lastly is the special mode, which I think is good to go into a bit more detail, because special mode is pretty much like a few special challenges that you need to take on. You need to do all of these for your Elite Desert task, so let's just go over them. The first one is Revenge of the Evil Chickens. You will just be taking on multiple evil chickens, just take out the chickens. It's not that difficult. Finish him is the next one. A boss fight with some handicaps. Pretty much just do the boss fight, you'll be handicapped, and that's it. It's not that difficult. It's really not that difficult. Next up, just die already. You gotta fight the 6 sentinels with weapons in the arena. So whenever there's Dagon of Sentinels or the Dagon of Kings or Queen or whatever you want to call them, they obviously are only damageable with the Belmong, and the first Dagon of Queen or King or whatever there is only damageable with like certain spells. Like you remember it from the quest where they change colors, right? These DK Sentinels are best to be taken out with the AoE damage. If you have Mage, you don't need to use the weapons laying in the arena. And if you're not using Mage, then, well, use one of the weapons that's laying in the arena, pretty much. But use AoE and they're done very, very quickly. No more Nomad. You have to fight Nomad twice in a row, which is probably the most difficult one if you struggle with PVM. But then again, just fight Nomad, camp behind the pillars, dodge his mechanics, you'll be fine, I promise you. I eat Dagonos for breakfast is 2 Sentinels plus 2 DK modders. That's what they're called. As I said, there's gear in the arena, like you can take them on with the Belmong, but you can also take them on with the different kind of spells, so just bring enough runes. But yet again, we'll be going over everything in the gear setup later on. Next up is Ingestion. It's just fighting all the recipe for the test bosses all at once. Not that difficult, just make sure you don't die, you can use food, etc, so you're fine. You will never defeat me. Survive for 5 minutes against the Lunar Quest line bosses, like the Inadequacy and all the other weird ones. That's not that difficult. I mean, quite frankly, you could probably just stand there and just tank them, but just take them on. It's some XP, I guess. Hey, Eat Power Up is the next one, is defeat some low level bosses with bombs that lay around the arena. Fun fact, these bombs are actually a requirement that you need to set off each bomb to take on bosses within the arena. However, setting the bombs off in a special mode does not count towards that task. That is a very, very important thing to note, but they just do not count. But pretty much you just run around the arena, lay down the bombs, kill the bosses with the bombs, and that's it. And lastly, the first It Burns it's something made by the community, which is actually quite sick, but that's an easier normal mode. Keep in mind, the normal mode is higher up in the list than the easy mode. Easy mode is all the way at the bottom of the list. Do that one first. It has a set rotation of where it spawns the fire. You will see it where you do the boss, don't worry. But on the easy mode, you will not get hit for it. But easy and normal mode have the same rotation. So just write down what the rotation is in the easy mode and then do normal mode. And then it's normal mode is also easy mode, if you get what I mean. But it's very easy. You don't have to worry about it. But let's get into the task that you need to complete, because I feel like this, to me at least, was the most unclear part about this entire requirement. When you open your task list, you probably see an entire list of all these things that you need to do, but you don't actually know what you need to do. And there's only quite a few things if you look at it, because even the shop or the reward menu or whatever you want to call it is terribly designed as well, and it's very, very unclear. So let's go over these. So first of all is reach floor 15 in climber mode. This is literally just playing it and you will reach it eventually. You'll need to do this multiple times anyway throughout your grind here. So this is just a passive thing that you'll need to do, and you will not have to go out of your way to complete this. Next up is reach floor 25 in endurance. As I mentioned before with the endurance mode, this is just something that's kind of the only thing that you need to do here, unless you need boss skills later on, because there's a requirement for 500 KC as well. And unless you already have all your pages and done everything in climber mode, because that will be the best way to get your pages, get into that in just a second, there's no reason for you to do endurance mode. So just do floor 25 endurance mode first, then go do your climber mode kills, and then if you need to do any more boss kills, go into endurance mode. That's the only thing you need to know about that. Next up is suffer each type of handicap. Yet again, if you just do climber mode, that's a passive thing that you will be getting by just playing the game mode. Use help from bomb power-ups. Depending on the kills you get, certain bombs will be dropping, and the more KC you have, the higher tier the bombs will be dropping. The highest tier bomb will be dropping at 500 KC. So after 500 KC, you need to do a couple of runs to obtain it. Then you just have to go into the arena, set off the bomb, and then you are done. So yes, you need a little bit more than 500 KC. But then the most important and probably the most difficult one for most people is collecting all the journal pages. I see a lot of posts online when I was doing my own research for this requirement about what the best way is. And I have found is doing climber mode till about 100k and then just keeping it going until you face a boss that's annoying. Like something like the Pest Queen or Char, where you need to do something really tedious to be able to take them out. What you then just want to do, because before you move on to the next arena, you will always be seeing what boss you'll be taking on. If you see the Pest Queen, if you see Char, if you see another boss that you think is annoying and you have more than 100k points, just dip out, claim your reward, and start again. This is probably the most efficient way to get your journal pages done, because you need all the journal pages for this requirement. And there's another requirement that's on that list, which is saying Dominion Factor 10,000 and all pages, but you will just unlock that when you have all the pages. So I have no idea why that is there, but hey ho, as I said, it's really, really unclear. The 500 KC, as mentioned before, just get 500 KC. It actually tracks it in that menu, so you can see how much KC you have. And slay the list of all the bosses. There's just the entire massive list of bosses, but pretty much if you go for your 500 KC, you won't encounter them all anyway, because they're random, unless you get extremely unlucky. But trust me, you will encounter all of them if you have all of them unlocked. But just make sure you have all the quests done. And lastly is spectating a game. That's all you need. Let's get into the gear setup. The gear setup is quite simple. There's nothing special you really need. And when it comes to inventory, it's even simpler, because in certain modes, you can actually bank and just re-gear, which I would not recommend because it takes time. And using this setup should make you be able to do this until you get bored, pretty much, or until you just want to get out there, you've done your challenge, or whatever reason it is. But as said before, magic tank armor, in my opinion, is kind of a hard requirement in combination with animate dead and blood barrage. This makes your sustainability pretty much infinite. If you just pop the animate dead, just use blood barrage, and you'll just always be at full health, especially in the game modes where you cannot be using your food at certain points or not using your brews. So blood barrage will just sustain you till forever, pretty much. Ring slot, just don't use your Ring of Death because you don't really need it. If that's your best ring, use it, but any ring will work. Cinderbanes are good because you can poison some of the enemies, if you can still sip your weapon poison, that is, of course. Any necklace, but one thing that I would recommend is wearing your balls for when you switch to range for 1 or 2 bosses where you need to switch styles. When it comes to inventory, yet again, it's quite simple. Bring 1 or 2 overloads, bring a couple of brews. I brought like 6 brews. Because, as I said, sometimes you cannot use your food, but sometimes you cannot use your potions. But when you cannot use your food, you can still sip your brews if you really need that. But then again, blood barrage is more than you need. Like, throughout this, I probably took like a couple of sips of brews for my entire 500 KC. So, yeah, it's not really needed. Regular food is always nice to have with you, like rocktails, weapon poison, obviously if you're using Cinderbanes, a blast flask if you have it for prayer restores, and otherwise just regular restores. As I said, in certain modes you can be using the bank, so just use the bank to get some more restores. Excalibur for some extra sustainability when it comes to health. And lastly, just death, air, soul, blood, fire, water, and air runes. The latter two, the water and air runes, are optional for the Daganov Queen Mother, because you can just wait until she changes into color and they don't have that much health. So you could probably finish it off in like 1 rotation, which is nice. And when it comes to some extra stuff, you can bring extra switches. You can bring extra gear switches or melee switches or whatever. It's not needed. You literally just need your 2-hand range switch and your bolts, and then your mage armor, and then you should be fine for this entire thing. But that's pretty much everything. Look, I really hope that I explained this well because I want to keep this very concise. There's so much information I can give you about this piece of content that is just not needed. I feel like this is everything you need to be able to complete it in a very, very easy, brain-dead way without having to worry about anything and getting everything done for this requirement. So let me know in the comment section down below if you think that this guide was helpful. Leave a like, and also, as I said before, let me know if you want to see any other guides. Temple tracking will be next, so stay tuned for that one. Subscribe if you're new, and my name is Valric, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Goodbye.